Rand Paul made an amateur mistake, a freshman mistake, a rookie mistake. He thought MSNBC was a legitimate news operation. Now, bless his heart. You don't want to talk to anybody in the press that is unprofessional or lazy. Now, basically what he did in that case was he walked right into a buzzsaw. Any legitimate news person would be embarrassed to see them pretending to be news people. They're not news people. They're political hacks.
That was former House Majority Leader Dick Armey speaking at a luncheon today and trying to argue that it was the venue in which Rand Paul exposed his views on the Civil Rights Act, as opposed to the views themselves, that is Dr. Paul's big political problem. Not what he said, but to whom he said it. Specifically, the problem was that he said it to me, after he'd also been asked about it by the Louisville Courier-Journal and by National Public Radio. But me, I was the real problem.
There's 10 different titles, to the Civil Rights Act, and 9 out of 10 deal with public institutions, and I'm absolutely in favor of. One deals with private institutions, and had I been around, I would have tried to modify that.
Leaving Dr. Paul's desired modifications of the civil rights aside for the moment, I have to say that while it is very flattering to be singled out of the blue by somebody like Dick Armey, I think his comments are a little patronizing to Rand Paul, who, after all, characterized his interview with me as fair.
Because it really wasn't the interview so much that was unfair. The interview, I think, was very fair.
The fact is, people like Dick Armey are very invested in trying to needle MSNBC, to make us the story, to make us the problem. Not the ideas or the things said by people interviewed here. Oh, no. It's the place, the host, the liberal lighting, the style of desk I have, the nefarious communist order of our call letters, perhaps. Have you looked into that? Of course, it's possible that I genuinely ambushed and bamboozled Rand Paul by asking him if he agreed with the Civil Rights Act after 2 other news outlets had asked him the same thing. It is possible that was horrendously unfair and Dick Armey's just calling it like he sees it. Or Dick Armey doesn't like the way that we've reported on him and how he makes his living. Last week, FreedomWorks came out with an August recess action kit, directing people to town hall events and arming them with questions to ask. FreedomWorks is a Washington, D.C.-based advocacy group that is chaired by the former Republican House Majority Leader, Dick Armey. In addition to being the head of FreedomWorks, Mr. Armey is a senior policy advisor at a Washington, D.C.-based lobbying firm called DLA Piper. Among DLA Piper's clients and former clients who just might be interested in what happens with health care reform, pharmaceutical maker Bristol Myers Squibb, who paid DLA Piper through the end of 2008. Medical device supplier SleepMed Incorporated, who also ended their arrangement with Piper just last year. Healthcare provider Metropolitan Health Networks, and the pharmaceutical firm Medicines Company. After that reporting and some other like it, Dick Armey ended up stepping down from that paid position at DLA Piper. But he has not stepped down from his belief that enumerating the facts is a wicked liberal plot.
And I've been bushwhacked. What the heck? I've never been really embarrassed about anything that I ever said or did, but I've been embarrassed about things that I've been alleged to have said and done.
Joining us now is Chris Hayes, Washington editor of The Nation magazine. Mr. Hayes, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Maddow.
It is possible that Dick Armey has a grudge against me, and that's fine. But he's also making a bigger political point here, that politicians on the right should stick to Fox, essentially, stick to friendly territory. And that's not just a Dick Armey point. That's sort of becoming a mainstream conservative strategic idea, isn't it?
It absolutely is. I mean, Karl Rove bragged after Rand Paul became the first person to cancel a Meet the Press interview since Louis Farrakhan. Karl Rove bragged that he was the one who basically called up Rand Paul and said, don't go and meet the press. Now, whatever they want to say about MSNBC, I don't think there's anyone who says that Meet the Press or NBC News is anything other than the most kind of establishment kind of mainstream media outlet. And they didn't even want to go on that. I mean, forget MSNBC, forget giving interviews to us at The Nation. We don't get a lot of them with those folks. They're avoiding what are the kind of main pillar staple mainstream outlets, because even those are going to ask basic questions about people's beliefs. And the fact of the matter is, what this is a tip-off of, Dick Armey and Karl Rove understand that a lot of these candidates and a lot of the conservative movement have very unpopular beliefs, and they have to figure out a way to kind of cloak them until Election Day.
Well, is there, though? I mean, this came up in the context of Sharon Angle, right? Yep. Dick Armey is advising Sharon Angle to avoid shows like, say, this one. So far, she seems to have taken his advice. She's done a straight down the right-hand side of the margin, talk radio only, Fox News only media strategy. Is there a downside for conservative politicians showing that they are only willing to talk to people who are going to ask them friendly questions?
Well, one would hope, right? I mean, I think there is a downside because I do think that people are going to begin to wonder. The problem is there are two problems. One is that the conservative media universe is really large. It's massive. It can reach a really big audience. And I think they think it's just big enough that they can get the people they need to get by just talking to that audience. And then there's also the problem that I think Sarah Palin has kind of pioneered this novel way of interfacing with the press that totally avoids ever having to pay the price of a tough interview and yet manages to reap all the gains of notoriety and attention. I mean, she communicates through her Facebook page. She goes on Fox News and everybody, she's the most covered politician in America aside from Barack Obama. That has provided, I think, a model that you can get all the benefits of what used to be mainstream press coverage with none of the costs of actually having to face tough questions.
I don't know if she pioneered it, though. Remember when the Bush White House gave a press credential to that hooker guy from the Republican website?
That's right.
To get the questions about, how awesome are you, sir? Are you as awesome as I think you are?
I'd totally forgotten that episode.
Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate it. Sorry about saying hooker. Didn't mean to mess you up with there, get you all flustered.
Thanks, Rachel.
Chris Hayes, Washington editor of The Nation magazine. Okay, I started mentally editing President Obama's oil disaster speech right about here.
Over 5.5 million feet of boom has been laid across the water to block and absorb the approaching oil.
5.5 million feet of what? 5.5 million feet of uselessness or of something that might actually do something? Stick around for the annotated, mattified, 75% ragier version of this speech in just a moment. President Obama's BP oil disaster speech reimagineered into something that I find more satisfying. The shoulda, woulda, coulda version, direct from the not even remotely official Oval Office of my mind. That's coming up next.